Nick, one thing I was surprised by is because I would have thought of you as being somebody who was like extremely pro-America, but then I read a quote that said that you said that basically Ukraine deserves what they're getting right now from Russia because Ukraine is aligned with America and America is the great Satan.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I would distinguish between America, which is like you and me and Sneeko and like the people and
What
like,
about me and Flacco?
and yeah, and you guys too. So I just don't really know you guys as well.
Wait,
I'm
what do you
like,
mean by
damn,
that?
the two
What do you
black-
mean by
The
that?
two black
What?
guys?
Well, no, I don't know Flacco. AD, I just saw
right.
you recently. But yeah, you guys too. You guys are America and people like Kanye and Candace Owens for that matter, and John Miller and everybody. And I would distinguish that from the regime. What I call the regime, what some people call the government, I call it the regime because America isn't just run. The authority in America doesn't just come from the government. It comes from a true regime in the sense that the government is influenced by the media and the government influences the media. And the same is true of Silicon Valley and the same is true of the banks and the same is true of Wall Street. And really what you have are maybe 5 to 10,000 decision makers across many elite institutions that are making decisions inside the government, outside the government, and the government is in bed with private institutions too. They're in bed with the Federal Reserve and the banks and BlackRock and Wall Street and so on. Anyway, and so when I talk about America's a great Satan and Ukraine should be punished and all this, I'm talking about this regime. I think the regime of America is evil. They do regime change in Libya. They do regime change in Iraq. They do regime change in the Balkans. And they did regime change in Ukraine. In 2014, the United States overthrew the democratically elected government of Ukraine, and they installed a pro-Western leader who was going to invite the European Union and NATO into their country, which Putin had said for years was a red line for Russia. And, you know, and they fought this, they really have been fighting for 8 years. Realistically, ever since the Maidan revolution in 2014, there's been this proxy war going on between the separatists in Donbass and the Ukrainian government backed by NATO in Kiev. And so when I say the U.S. is a great Satan, I mean our military, our State Department, the government, our companies, our NGOs, and multinational corporations. They're spreading sin, they're spreading decadence, they're spreading liberalism, they're spreading evil and death and destruction all around the world. And so insofar as Russia is opposed to the hegemony of the American regime, and I am opposed to the American regime, then that sort of makes us allies.
Interesting. So you're hoping that Ukraine gets wiped off the face of the planet, or are you looking forward to nuclear war, or what are you hoping for in this whole thing?
Well, I've been urging de-escalation. I think that the United States needs an off-ramp here. I mean, because things just keep escalating on both, it's reciprocal on both sides, and it is going to turn into a nuclear war if there isn't restraint because it just keeps escalating. And so I think the United States needs to accept that Russia is going to win this war. They can't, like, it's literally is not allowable for Putin to lose this war. So we need to recognize that. We need to recognize that Ukraine's not going to win. They're not going to take back Crimea. They're not going to take back Luhansk and Donetsk. So I think they should just withdraw, give it up. Like Elon Musk said, let's hold a UN monitored referendum in the breakaway districts. Let's say Crimea and Donbass are part of Russia. Let's say Ukraine will never join NATO. You know, I think that's a fair resolution, which is what was sought for 20 years.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it does seem pretty crazy seeing everybody say that the risk of nuclear war is so much higher right now. But, I mean, there's still a long way to go before we actually see Putin feel like he has to make that move, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the good thing is after Putin annexed those territories, the United States didn't really retaliate. So I thought that was sort of a good sign. But, you know, they blew up those pipelines. They blew up the bridge connecting Russia and Crimea. So there's just like there's just no restraint here. There needs to be some restraint.
Nick, there's one thing that I know these guys definitely want to hear you talk about. Why are you celibate?
Well, you know, the easy answer is I am Catholic, so I think it's a sin.
To have premarital sex.
Yes.
So you are a virgin at this time?
Yes.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I think that the only morally illicit sex is within marriage, which is how it was for, you know, thousands of years. But also I'm just sort of you know, I'm like an eccentric. What you gotta understand about me is I'm like an eccentric genius. Okay, so I mean, not only do I like, not only am I celibate because it's like the right thing to do, but also I'm just not really interested.
He
in
can't
sex.
connect with bots. He can't connect to normies on that level.
What's that?
No, he's anti-porn.
No, I'm anti-that as well.
You don't need porn though to beat your dick though.
So you're on permanent semen retention mode.
Well, I want to get married eventually. I'm gonna get
so you're
married
saving all
eventually.
your jizz for your future wife?
That's right. Yeah. Well, for my,
Nick, how old are you?
I have kids. I'm 24.
Oh, he's a kid.
That's what I couldn't believe when he said that he was 18, saying that thing about the white woman fucking the dog, being like fucking the black guy. Like, he's got white power in his fucking veins, bro. Like, he knew from a young age. That's kind of like I feel like a lot of people.
Afraid of him, man.
I'm thinking he's fucking 37 years old. And what the He was a college student causing havoc. That's how he became famous.
He's like a Nazi whiz kid. It's crazy.
I'm not a Nazi.
Come
Well,
on,
you know, ish.
come on.
You know, like in that ballpark.
Right?
I'm a nice guy, and the thing is, like, and I've put this on my Telegram. I want what's right for the country. I want to tell the truth, and the truth is uncomfortable. Like, believe me, I wish I could be a liberal because liberalism has a lot of nice promises.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, and that would be very easy for me to be a liberal. I was a libertarian when I was in high school, but I just realized the world is a certain way, and I wish it weren't that way. Like, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but like, inequality is baked into the cake. That's sad. It's tragic in a lot of ways, but that's a human condition. And I think that the answer is compassion. The answer is compassion and understanding and respect and love for people. But we have to tell the truth because the world is going crazy right now. The world's going to shit. Things are obviously declining. And the only way that we're going to turn it around is if we have some common sense and just call it what it is. And sometimes that makes people uncomfortable and it sounds a certain way. And I know I'm belligerent. I can be belligerent, can be offensive sometimes. And
we need to follow God overall. Everything is better aligned if we follow God. Nick, I just left Adam 22's studio, and that dude has a lot of Satan shit up in there, man. You got to go ahead and
I have one little like Satan head statue that somebody.
He has
gave
one
me.
Satan head statue on his desk. He's got a Satan little doll behind it.
Somebody sent that to me randomly. I didn't go out of my way to get either of these things.
He's got a Satan tattoo on his hand. He's got an upside down cross tatted on his face.
I got trust God on my knuckles, man. I ain't with that.
You got an iPod tattoo.
I do too. Yo, I need tattoos. Yo, Nick, Ken.
You're gonna look like Rick Ross.
I know, right? No, Nick, can we talk about the white devil, aka white liberals? So pretty much like the same people 60 years ago, and who was telling us that it's their cafe and like they can kick you out, because you're black and that's perfectly fine. Those are the same motherfuckers telling us now, it's their platform. They can kick you off if they don't like your opinion, man. Now, what's your opinion on white liberals? I believe that they're our number one enemy.
You're like repeating his talking points back at him.
Who, Nick?
And it just sounds like, you are. It sounds less racist. No one's going to call you a Nazi for saying the same shit that Nick said.
I've never heard Nick say that. But go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
True, yeah, because I would say it's Jews. I wouldn't say it's white liberals.
No.
Yeah, it's white liberals for sure, man. White liberals are definitely the devil.
Here's why, though, because if you look at white liberals, and at least the radical, and when we're talking about white, I mean white, ACLU and other left-wing groups, they used to defend free speech. If you look at like ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union, they're a left group, but they defended the skinheads in Skokie, Illinois, when the neo-Nazis or the Ku Klux Klan wanted to do a parade.
Yeah, they switched their whole shit up and nobody fucking talks about it. Yeah.
All right, people, we just hit 300,000 subscribers. You know we're trying to hit 400,000 subscribers. So that little red button, tap it, tap in. Appreciate y'all.